All right, Restoration Pros, in this video, I want to show you the framework that I personally use to think about restoration marketing in a way that actually makes sense, because let's be honest, a lot of restoration companies are really confused, completely confused out of their minds when it comes to marketing. One guy, well, he tells you to spend a bunch of money on Google Ads. Another guy says, oh, go all in on SEO. Well, another guy says, well, you got to hire somebody to make Instagram reels all day. And then some dude shows up promising 30 jobs a month with AI, automation, and magic fairy dust. And you're sitting there like, what actually works? So in this video, I'm going to simplify the entire thing. I want to help you understand how restoration marketing actually works, how to think about it, and how to recognize the difference between a strategy that's actually solid, one that actually works, and one that sounds good until your bank account starts wheezing. Because once you understand the framework, you stop guessing. You stop chasing shiny objects, and you start building a strategy that fits the way that the industry actually works. So let's break it down. The most basic way to think about any marketing strategy is this. You've got the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. Another way to say this or think about it is awareness, consideration, and decision. That's it. That's the framework. Top of the funnel is the awareness part. Middle of funnel is consideration. Bottom of funnel, well, that's where the decision happens. And all that really means is that you're mapping out the customer journey. How does someone go from not really knowing what you do, who you are, to understanding their options, to finally choosing you? That's the game. Now here's where restoration gets a little bit interesting, because in a normal business, that funnel might be a little bit more straightforward, but in restoration, the customer journey changes depending on the service that you're offering. Water damage is different than mold. Mold is different than fire. Fire is different than reconstruction. And the reason it matters is because the way people buy is different. So let's start with water damage, because this is where a lot of restoration companies get their marketing completely backwards. Let's walk through the actual customer journey. Susie gets home, she opens the front door, there's water all over the floor. Maybe the ceiling is sagging, maybe there's water pouring out from under a bathroom vanity, maybe the hardwoods are already cupping, and she's 2 seconds away from a full emotional breakdown. Now in that moment, Susie is not thinking, wow, thank goodness I saw that Instagram reel from a mitigation company 14 months ago. Let me go and scroll through my saved folder and finally call them. That is not what's happening. She's in panic mode. She wants the water to stop. She wants someone to tell her what to do. She wants help fast. And most of the time, the first person that she's gonna call is not you. It's the plumber, it's the realtor who sold her the house, it's the insurance agent, or it's the HVAC company, or the drain cleaner, or the landscaper if it's irrigation related, or the property manager if it's a rental. In other words, a huge percentage, the vast majority of all water damage jobs flow through some kind of intermediary. That's just how this industry works. Someone gets their hands on the job before you ever even hear about it. And that is one of the biggest truths in this entire industry. And if you don't understand that, you will keep trying to force strategies that just don't match the way people actually behave here. That's why I say restoration marketing is really a positioning problem. You're not just trying to get in front of homeowners, you're trying to get in front of the people who are getting in front of homeowners first. That's why referral relationships are so powerful, because with these relationships, because they align perfectly with the customer journey. Now, yes, there is a smaller percentage of people who do go to Google. They type in things like water damage company near me, emergency flood removal, flood cleanup near me. That exists. But the issue is supply and demand. There are only so many people searching in a given market at any given time, and every restoration company under the sun in your city is fighting over those same few searches. So what happens? Cost goes up, everybody bids harder, margins, well, they pretty much shrink to oblivion. And you end up in a game where sometimes the math works and sometimes it absolutely does not work. Can Google Ads work? Yes. Can SEO work? Absolutely. Can pay-per-lead companies work? Of course. But here's the real challenge. Even if it works, a lot of it is not very scalable in the way people think it is. Because if you spend $100,000 on any of these pay-per-lead vendors or platforms or channels, that does not not mean that you can now go and spend $200,000 to double the result. Why? Because the supply of people searching does not automatically increase just because you increased your budget. That's where guys get smoked. They think, hey, we got a decent return at this budget, let's double it. But then the cost per lead goes up, competition increases, efficiency drops, and now they're frustrated because the math, it stopped mathing. That's why so many restoration companies feel like online marketing is this crazy roller coaster. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes one big job saves the whole campaign. Sometimes you spend money and you feel like you lit it on fire. And that's also why I tell restoration companies this, especially if you're a small company, especially under, $5 million a year, you need to be very careful about dumping money into channels that are mostly branding plays. And what I mean by this, think like heavy social media content, vanity content, or trying to become a local influencer in your restoration company. That's not where I'd be putting my first serious dollars if I needed predictable job flow, because that kind of strategy, well, it's usually a long game. It can, build a competitive moat over time, but it's not usually the thing that gets you consistent, trackable, scalable job flow in the short term. That's why referral relationships matter so much, because when you tap into referral partners, you're tapping into the other 80% of the market. The people who actually get the call, the people who already have the trust, the people who influence where the job goes. And once you understand that, the whole industry starts making more sense. Let's talk about mold for a second, because mold, it's different, because mold often starts with symptoms. Maybe they see spots on the wall. Maybe there's a smell. Maybe there's somebody in the house who starts feeling sick. Maybe there's visible growth in a crawl space or attic. That customer journey is different than water, because the urgency, well, it feels different. It's not, there's water all over my floor right now. It's more like, what is this? Is it dangerous? Who do I even call? Do I need to test it? How do I get rid of it? That's where certain channels can work a little bit differently. Search, well, Google Ads, search platforms like that, they can work here for mold for sure. And in some cases, social media ads, well, they can even work here as well, where they might not work for water. They can actually work well for mold, because you're interrupting somebody who's already noticing symptoms and might be more open to educational content. That doesn't mean go dump your whole budget into Facebook ads. It just means the customer journey is different. So the channel mix, how you're actually getting out there, well, that can be different. Now let's talk fire. Fire damage is a lot more like water in the sense that people usually aren't calmly researching this, 3 weeks in advance. If there's smoke damage or a fire event, the lead often comes through insurance, adjusters, fire departments, electricians, property managers, some other type of professional. Again, intermediaries, again, referral relationships, again, positioning, that's the pattern here. Then on the back end, you've got things like reconstruction, packouts, contents, and other downstream services. This is where the conversation gets really important strategically, because when you increase your service stack the right way, you increase the lifetime value of the job, and when the lifetime value goes up, you can afford to spend more to acquire the customer or the referral source. This is one of the reasons private equity is moving into the restoration space so aggressively right now. They understand numbers. They understand that, if you have one plumber and that relationship, well, it can produce hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. And if one water loss can also turn into mitigation, pack out contents, reconstruction, then, well, that referral source is extremely valuable. That's why you see some, big players being really aggressive. I'm hearing guys spend, 30, 40, 50. I've even heard 150,000 in a referral fee, a sign-on bonus to plumbers from private equity companies right now. It is crazy. It's because they're not just looking at one little dry out when they're looking at this. They're looking at the total lifetime value. That's how their, perception of value of this relationship is being based on. Now, I'm not telling you to go bolt on every service under the sun tomorrow and become average at 10 things instead of being excellent at 2. That's also a huge mistake. You still need operational excellence. You still need SOPs, training, systems, people. You don't want a shiny object syndrome to be bouncing you around everywhere, but you do need to understand understand the math of lifetime value and, why bigger companies can sometimes outspend smaller ones. Because one of the greatest truths in business is that the business that can spend more money to profitably acquire a customer absolutely beats their competitor every time. This is true in pretty much every industry, and it's getting even more true in restoration as the market gets more competitive. So what's the practical takeaway here? Simple. If you want more consistency in restoration, you need a wide net of referral relationships, not just one plumber, not one TPA, not just one marketing channel. You need a wide net. You want dozens, eventually hundreds of people in your market who know exactly what you do and who are willing to send you work. Some might send you one job a year, some might send 50, some might barely send anything until one day they send a massive whopping job, huge loss comes through, and that relationship finally pays off. And that's how you smooth out the feast and famine cycle. That's how you stop living in storm hit, now we're slammed, now it's slow, do we lay off guys, that's no fun, now we're busy again, now we're dead. This cycle is brutal, and the companies that are escaping it usually do it by building referral infrastructure. That's why I say referral partners, they are the backbone of this industry. It makes perfect sense why restoration companies pay BDR so much money to literally just drive around, meet with people, shake hands, kiss babies, drop off materials, donuts, all that stuff. It's because they're not just networking, they're building lead sources, they're building marketing channels for that company. And I'd rather own a marketing channel, own a lead source than rent leads all day long. Because when you stop paying Google, well, the leads stop. When you stop paying the pay-per-lead vendors, well, the leads stop. But if you've built a great relationship with 100 referral partners, that keeps paying you. That compound. That becomes a business asset. Now, one other thing I always encourage restoration companies to do is this. Look at the competitors ahead of you. If you're at 3 million and want to get to 5, if you're at 5 and you want to get to 10, study the ones who are where you want to be. What are they doing? But you got to be smart about this. Don't just copy what a $10 million company is doing today if that strategy only makes sense at 10 million. If they're blowing 6 figures on radio, TV, or broad branding campaigns, that doesn't mean you should do that at your size. That might be a moat building play for them. Instead, ask what got them from where you're at now to their level where you want to be. That's what you model. Not the flashy stuff, not the vanity stuff, the stuff that actually moved the needle for them. And finally, let me say this, because it just boggles my brain. I hate seeing restoration companies get sold absolute garbage. I hate hearing, this guy guarantees, 30 jobs a month. This company says their AI system guarantees whatever amount of jobs. This software has a secret hack nobody else knows about. Restoration professionals, please, come on. Let's all use our just logic and common sense here. Nobody can guarantee jobs in this industry. Nobody controls when pipes burst. Nobody controls when somebody's sprinkler line fails. Nobody controls the weather unless they've got some weird machine in the back room creating freeze events on command. And obviously they don't. The game here is not controlling, it's positioning. You position yourself with the right referral partners, you build enough of them, you treat them well, you treat their customers well, and over time they keep sending you jobs. That's the real strategy. That's the boring truth. That's the thing that actually works here. So if you want to win in restoration marketing, stop looking for magic, okay? Start building systems that match the way the industry works. And if you want help doing that, if you want a team that will actually do the grunt work, building your referral engine, reaching out, qualifying partners, booking meetings, and helping you stack up your army of referral relationships, well, that's exactly what we do. At Marketing Ninjas, we help restoration companies build referral engines that create real consistency. And if this sounds, valuable to you, I want you to head over to marketingninjas.io. If we're a fit and your territory is available, we'd love to help. And if you got some value from this video, share the love. Please share the video, smash the subscribe and like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and God bless.